So if attachment is the ultimate need, then facing separation is the ultimate threat. Welcome to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast, where correction is out, connection is in, and your kids want to listen to you. I'm Andy Martineau, creator of Connect Method Parenting, here to help you stay calm, confident, and connected no matter what. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to dive into what I think is one of the most obvious yet completely missed topics when it comes to Connect Method Parenting, when it comes to parenting from an attachment-based framework. And that is the fact that attachment is our preeminent need. So let's dive into this. I have so much to say about this, and here we go. So attachment, connection, relationship, I'm going to use them all synonymously as we talk today for this predisposition we have for attachment, for relationship. Now, this theory builds on the work of John Bowlby. He was an English psychologist who identified separation as the primary cause of distress. And a key aspect of Dr. Gordon Neufeld's work is correcting a long-standing misunderstanding that confuses attachment with being merely socialized or horizontal peer-to-peer orientation. He really emphasizes that the primary drive, you guys, the primary drive is for togetherness, and that this togetherness is hierarchical and vertical, existing within family structures, within a teacher-child. There's an alpha and there's a dependent. There's a lead and there's a follower. So it exists within family structures, relationships between parents and children. And one of the main challenges in understanding attachment is the invisibility of it. The fact that we don't see it. It's like gravity. It's like magnetism. It must be inferred rather than directly observed. So even though there's empirical science, it often focuses only on what's visible. So even though a lot of science is only focused on what's visible, attachment theory concerns itself with unseen forces that drive human behavior. So if this is our foundation, if this is everything and nothing else matters, if this doesn't get taken care of, we want to pay attention to it. Just like gravity, even though we can't see gravity, if we don't take it into consideration, then a lot of things are going to go wrong. There's going to be some problems in how we function in the world. So we have to take it into consideration. And sometimes this is so hard when our child is pushing back, when our child is having a fit, when our child is having an attitude, and our nervous system is so activated or we are so worried. But if attachment is the unmet need, then facing separation is the ultimate threat. This concept is crucial, you all. It's crucial because it includes not just actual separation, but also the anticipation of separation. The belief that I might be separated, which can have the same impact on the brain. And ways we might be separated is, hey, if my parent doesn't like what I'm doing, then they're going to be frustrated with me. They might perceive that as a separation. Going to sleep is a separation. Us going on a trip is a separation. Us sometimes even just leaving the room is a separation. So some of these are inevitable, but some of them aren't. And some of them that are inevitable, we can bridge. Many common childhood stressors are bedtime, moving, divorce, rejection, when someone passes away. They're all stressful because they involve facing separation. And this reframes the understanding of stress, suggesting that separation is the root cause of most of our emotional distress. That's a big thing to wrap our brains around, that the most important need we have as a human is togetherness, is relationships, but it also explains why we do crazy things, why we prioritize our relationships over maybe our well-being sometimes. The classic example is, why would a mother run into a burning building to save her child if her survival was the most important thing to her? If that was the most important instinct she had, she would not risk her own well-being for that of her child, but that's not. And it's a great example of, it's extreme, but it's a great example that gets our brains to start to question, oh, the relationship, the togetherness, that's trumping my own need for safety. So if attachment is the ultimate need, then facing separation is the ultimate threat. This concept is crucial because it includes not just actual separation, like I said, but the anticipation of it. Again, whether it actually happens or not, and we're going to talk specifically right now with your children. So if your child's anticipating going to school and that's that separation is happening, or you're going to be leaving on a trip, even though it hasn't happened yet, they can get stressed about it. They can start to feel worried. It can start to have an impact on how they're behaving. Now, when a person faces separation, the brain's limbic system, and if you don't know what the limbic system is, it's the emotional center of the brain. And so our limbic system activates 3, what Dr. Neufeld calls primal and pre-programmed emotions to solve the problem. These are not something we're consciously thinking about. This isn't something we learn. This is something that comes innate in us to create higher chances of us surviving. Now think about it. When a child comes into the world, they need an adult to take care of them. So it makes sense that attachment is the preeminent need. Because if I don't have an adult who's taking care of me, who cares about me, then I'm probably not going to make it. Now, again, consciously, they are not thinking about any of that, but subconsciously, that's exactly what's happening. So that the brain is brilliant and has these 3 pre-programmed emotions to solve this problem, to help ensure that togetherness and a relationship is secured. And the 3 emotions are pursuit, alarm, and frustration. Again, this comes from the work of Dr. Neufeld. He's absolutely genius. He's taken the work of so many theorists and scientists over the last few hundred years and put them together into a cohesive attachment theory. So these emotions work in tandem, and the brain evokes them in hopes that one of them is going to resolve this threat to separation. So let's go through them all, because I'm sure you've felt them in your child. Whether they're functional or not functional is a totally another topic. A lot of times they come out in a way that feels very distressing to us and alarming to us. We don't like it, but know that there's a reason for each one of them. So pursuit. This is the instinct to close the physical or emotional gap created by separation. It's the least known of the 3 primal emotions, but it looks like behaviors of clinging, calling out, people pleasing. Maybe we've adopted that form of pursuit ourselves as we're trying to maintain relationships, maybe with our parents or our friends or our spouse or our kids. So clinging, calling out, people pleasing, seeking approval, all expressions of pursuit. This drive can come from any type of gap, and at first it's productive. So think of a child at a park. If they can't find their mom and they're worried, they're going to go into a drive for pursuit, which is moving them to get closer proximity to their parent. Very helpful, until it becomes distorted. If the gap can't be closed, if I can't find my parent, if someone has passed away, if I've had a loss of any kind, if I have a rejection in a relationship that cannot be healed, then it can become distorted, leading to fixations, leading to endless trying to alter oneself to become more attractive or valued. And we can develop, or our child can develop, you can think of it in both cases, we can develop various involuntary archetypes, such as concealing the self. So I don't want everyone to know who I am, because that allows them to like me better, or diminishing ourselves, mirroring other people. And these are strategies to pursue and to preserve proximity. Okay, quick example for myself. It's been 15 years ago. I had a really strange relationship with a friend and felt very surprised and rejected by this friend just cutting me off because I was honest with her. I was honest about something. She wanted me to do something. I said no, and she couldn't handle it. And I'm going to own what's mine too. I probably could have said it more delicately, especially knowing what I know now. But I just was very honest. She completely cut me off and started doing things that were very disruptive to my life. And I can now look back on that experience and see how my instinct for pursuit and proximity to try to close this gap that couldn't be closed because she wasn't open to it. And honestly, it was not a gap I wanted to close. It was better for me to not have this friendship. But in the moment, for a little bit, I can see how I started to have a distorted form of pursuit to try to recover that relationship. Thank goodness it didn't get recovered. It was a really powerful learning experience, but it's also really helpful to see a moment in our lives. Try to think of this for yourself. Try to think of a time where there was a relationship that was ended, or that was maybe a move happened, a death happened, a falling out happened. And for a while it was very, very hard. And maybe you were trying to cling on to that relationship, even though it ended. You were calling out in certain ways. You're people pleasing, seeking approval, diminishing yourself, trying to change yourself, not showing all of yourself, mirroring them, trying to match what they were doing to get them to approve of you. Maybe it was when you were younger. I'm sure I had experiences in junior high and elementary school where this happened, but this one that was about 15 years ago is so revealing of the underdeveloped part of myself in this area. It was really good for me to see, oh, I went into overdrive with proximity. And I did the other ones too, alarm and pursuit, which we'll go into. But it's helpful to have an example of when we might have a distorted version of it, because then when our kids have it, we'll be more compassionate and understanding. It doesn't mean we should feed it. It just means we'll have compassion. Okay, so pursuit. Again, classic example. Little kid at the park, mom says, hey, it's time to go. They don't listen, so mom starts walking away. Their instinct for pursuit will often get them to get all nervous and start running towards the parent. I was visiting my sister a few months ago. I was in a grocery store and I heard an older brother say this to a younger brother, like, well, I'm just going to leave you. You're just going to be here all by yourself, without even knowing it, tapping into this little brother's need for proximity. Okay, so first, primal emotion that is pre-programmed is pursuit, the instinct to close the physical or emotional gap created by separation. Second one is alarm. This is the body's system for detecting threats, primarily the threat of separation. It's linked to the flight, if you think about fight or flight, that framework, the flight response, and is mediated by the limbic system, again, the emotional center of the brain, operating largely, if not completely, out of our conscious awareness or control. Now, common hidden sources of alarm include insecurity in a relationship, shame, keeping secrets. The alarm system develops and calibrates through play and safe context. So Dr. Neufeld likes to switch out the term alarm instead of anxiety. We use anxiety a lot more in our society, but he said there's no anxiety network in the brain, but they have mapped an alarm system in the brain, meaning they can put the electrodes on someone's brain, and if they go into alarm, they can map what starts lighting up. And it's this need when we're alarmed for safety, to get out of danger. A properly functioning alarm system moves a person to caution. So it gets me in a place where I'm nervous about a threat, and I do something to try to mediate the threat. So I'm alarmed thinking about my kids playing at that park, or when we were on a trip one time, my daughter wanted to bungee jump, and I could just feel my alarm system when she was like, we should do it together. I started getting nervous. So this is another thing that we can notice in our children. And if you understand what's going on and you start to see it, you'll see when it's functioning properly and when it's not. It's also something that we start to play around with little kids intuitively, with peekaboo, with playing tag, hide and seek, even climbing a tree. It's a little scary, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to see how much I can handle. It allows our children to test their limits without any real danger. And a properly functioning alarm system will move a person to caution in an appropriate way. So, pursuit, the proximity for pursuit, the alarm system that helps us notice danger, that helps us think, okay, here's what I might need an adult helping me navigate so I'm safe. And what am I doing that might put this relationship at risk? And the third one is frustration. I love frustration. I think it's one of the most powerful emotions if we harness it productively. I like to call it the brain's change system, and it's activated when something isn't working. Every one of us have felt frustration. Its primary job is to motivate an individual to change a situation. If change isn't possible, it can be expressed productively through movement or unproductively through aggression. But the key to managing frustration is to see it not as a problem, but as a normal and necessary part of life that needs to be expressed safely. So if the relationship isn't working, if there is a threat to togetherness, then these three emotions, the proximity for pursuit, alarm, and frustration, get lit up in our limbic system. The limbic system says, let's put these to work. We got to close the gap. So pursuit is literally closing the physical gap. Alarm is looking for things that might be threatening and trying to solve them so it can restore the relationship or make sure the relationship's not threatened. And the frustration comes when if something's not working with the relationship or with any, I mean, it's bigger than this, but I'm going to contain it down into just the parent-child relationship for now. If I feel like my parent isn't accepting me or I don't feel happy with the relationship or something in my life is just not working, I'm going to try to change it. And frustration is that motivation to change, or that emotion that drives change. Now, the question is, does it happen productively? Does it work, or does it go into an unproductive expression of it? We'll talk about that in a minute. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'll try my best to be looking at those as we get, after I get through the next section. So let's recap what we've talked about so far. Togetherness or attachment is the preeminent drive for all living things. And Neufeld expands it to non-living things. And he does a beautiful job. I don't have time today, but to go into how this is showing up in everything from a tree to an organism to a mammal to a human, and how this need for togetherness and how things separate and then come back together. Even in the way a baby is born, things start separating and they come back together. How a baby's eyes start to work when they're little, they start as separate and then they come together. And that this is the driving force, whether we like it or not, whether we understand it or not. It's like gravity, it's there whether we understand it. And it's so much better. Life is so much better when we understand the law that is governing the universe and we can live in lockstep with it instead of continue to push against it. And what I will say is the behavior modification way that most of us have grown up thinking about parenting is pushing against the natural order of things, which is why it's so hard and it feels so draining. Okay, so that's the preeminent need. And then the 3 primal emotions that you're going to start noticing all over the place once you understand this is pursuit, alarm, and frustration. This is going to come up when something's not on with your child. Even if it's at school, they're having a hard time at school, they come home and they're off. They don't feel connected to you and they feel like maybe something's wrong with them. You're going to see pursuit, alarm, and frustration. And what we want to do is help those metabolize through. If you enjoyed this episode, you're going to want to check out the 8-week parenting pivot, which is the first phase of my program, the League of Extraordinarily Connected Parents. We're opening up a new round in October. So if you're listening to this live, it's going to be October 7th. If you're listening to this and that date has passed, go check out the website, connectmethodparenting.com, and we'll list the next time we're opening. But if you're listening to this live, go check it out because you can already apply and get accepted into the next round so that you can lock yourself in place to have a huge shift with your kids, to get them to want to listen to you, which is very different than using punishments, rewards, timeouts, ultimatums to get them to listen to you. We want it to be more cooperative. We want better listening. We want a great relationship, and we want to have a ton of fun when we're parenting. So if that's what you want, if what I talked about in this episode resonated, jump over to cmp.works/pivot. I'll put the link in the show notes as well, and find out more about the pivot, apply to join, and we'll let you know if you get in. All right. Until next time, go connect with your kids, have a blast, and pop back in for another episode soon about how to use connection, not correction, to get your kids to want to listen to you. See you later. Bye.